So here is a demo of the ERC-20 staking application we're going to be building. Right here, I have my login screen, so we can connect either with in-app wallet, or we can select a Web3 wallet here. I'm going to sign in with a MetaMask wallet and connect. So right here, I have my wallet connected. This is my balance for the staking token. So this is the token that we can stake in our staking app. And this is my balance of a reward token. So this is how much tokens I have claimed and have been rewarded. Now, with the ERC-20 staking contract that we have at thirdweb and that we're going to be using, the staking and the reward token are two different tokens. So the staking token is going to be a token that we stake, and the reward token is going to be another token that we get back as a reward. So we do have the ability here to stake and withdraw our tokens. So if we hit stake here, we can stake a token. So currently right now I have 15 tokens to stake. So if I go stake here, and let's just say we want to stake 5 more tokens, we first have to set approval. So right here, we'll get the approval here to approve 5 of these tokens. So I'm going to hit next and approve. Once our tokens are approved, we can then stake 5 tokens here. So I'm going to hit stake. We'll get the transaction here to confirm to stake those tokens. And there you go. Now my staking tokens are at 20, and my staking amount here of my balance that's in my wallet decreases. We can do the same with withdraw. We can put in the amount and we can withdraw those tokens as well. So currently right here, I have 20 tokens staked, and my rewards here are 1986. You can see this refreshes. We have it set for every 10 seconds. So you can see here it's going up an amount every 10 seconds, and I can simply claim this reward, and my reward balance here would be updated. So if I hit claim reward, we'll hit confirm on that transaction. And there you go. We claimed the reward. Balance is back at 0. It's restarting the reward balance here. And up here on the reward tokens, you can see I now have more reward tokens, and that balance was added over here. So this is the ERC-20 staking contract that we are going to be building in this tutorial. Hey everyone, Sean Watasa here, back with another tutorial video, and in today's video we're going to be building ourselves our very own ERC-20 staking application. We're going to deploy thirdweb's pre-built ERC-20 staking smart contract, and we are going to build a Web3 application which allows us to stake a token and earn a reward token in return, depending on how much and how long we have our token staked for. Overview of what we're going to be covering in this video. We're first going to deploy out all the smart contracts needed to build this out. That's going to include our ERC-20 token for our staking token, our ERC-20 token for our reward token, and our ERC-20 staking smart contract. These are all going to be pre-built contracts that we deploy with thirdweb. Then we'll jump in and build out our ERC-20 staking application using thirdweb's Connect SDK. So with all that said, let's jump on the computer here and let's deploy our smart contracts first. On my computer here, I am connected to thirdweb's dashboard. I'm going to head on over to the contracts tab here, and I'm going to deploy a new contract. Now we're going to deploy our staking token and our reward token first. Now with thirdweb's ERC-20 staking smart contract, the staking token, so the token that we're actually staking, and the reward token, so the rewards that we're earning by having those tokens staked, are going to have to be 2 different tokens. So I'm going to deploy an ERC-20 smart contract for each one of those tokens. In the popular section here, you'll see the token contract here. Now we're not going to do a token drop contract. We're looking for the regular token contract here. And I'm going to click on that and then hit deploy now. And we'll call this our staking token. And we'll just call this staking here. That's the symbol. And then you can fill out the other contract metadata if you choose to do so, like an image and description. Down here at the bottom under network and chains, you can select the drop down here, and you can deploy to any EVM compatible blockchain out there. So you can select your mainnet, your testnet if you're doing some testing. For this tutorial, I'm going to deploy this onto the base Sepolia testnet, and I'm going to select the deploy now button. We'll get a transaction here to confirm to deploy our contract. Then we'll get our signature request here to add it to our thirdweb dashboard. So we'll sign that. Once that's deployed, we'll be brought to our contract dashboard here for our staking token. I'm going to open up a new tab under the contracts again, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to deploy a contract, and I'm going to select the token contract again, this time for our reward token. So when I hit deploy now, I'm going to put in our reward token. We'll make the symbol here reward. And again, you can put in an image description. Network and chain, you want to deploy that to the same network or chain that you had selected for your other token. And I'm going to hit deploy now. We'll confirm that transaction to deploy our contract. And again, sign this signature request to add it to our dashboard. There you go. Now we are at our contract dashboard for our reward token. So we have our reward token and we have our staking token here. I'm going to open up another tab here under contracts one more time. This time we're going to deploy our ERC-20 staking contract. Now I'm going to hit deploy contract again, and I'm going to scroll down until we reach the staking section of our Explore page. And in our staking section here, we have ERC-721, 1155, and ERC-20. We're going to be using ERC-20s for this, so we're going to select the stake ERC-20 contract here. I'm going to hit deploy now. We're going to name this, so I'll just call this a stake contract. We'll give it a symbol here of stake. Again, you can fill out the image and description. Now, there are a few more parameters that we need to fill out here. The first one we need to fill out is the ERC-20 reward token address. So this is the ERC-20 token address that is going to be rewarded out to anyone who stakes their ERC-20 tokens within this contract. So I'm going to come here, get our reward token here, copy that address, come back, paste that in. Next one is going to be our ERC staking token address. So this is going to be our staking token here. Copy that. Come back in here. Paste. Time unit for rewards. So you can read the description here. This number is going to be in seconds. So if we want to give out a reward per hour, we're going to have to enter 3,600 seconds for the number. Now, this can be in any interval that you want. Let's just say here, we want to give out a reward every minute. So I'm going to say, or actually we'll make it a bit quicker for this tutorial. We'll say every 10 seconds. We want to give out a reward. And next down here, we have the numerator and denominator for the reward ratio. Now, if we want to reward 1 for 20, this means that 1 reward token will be given out for every token staked. So if we want the reward to be 1-to-1, that means for every 1 token that I have staked, I will reward 1 token back every 10 seconds. That's how the time units and the ratio here is going to work. So every 10 seconds, we'll say, hey, we'll give 1 reward for every 10 tokens that you have staked. So if I say here, the numerator is going to be 1, my denominator is going to be 10. So every 1/10 here, so I get, again, 1 reward for every 10 tokens staked every 10 seconds. And of course, you can configure this to whatever you want to configure it to. This is what we're using here for this tutorial. And then finally, at the bottom here, network and chain, I want to make sure that I have the same network and chain selected that I had my other contracts deployed to. Finally, I'm going to hit deploy now. We'll confirm in this transaction to deploy our contract. And then we will sign our signature request here to add this to our dashboard. All right, and we now have our stake contract here. So we have our 3 contracts. We have our stake token contract, we have our reward token contract, and we have our staking contract. Now, before we get into building out our staking application, we need to set up this staking contract. And we need to have some reward tokens here that we can deposit into the staking contract so that it can give out those rewards to people who have their tokens staked. I'm gonna come back to my rewards token contract here, and I'm gonna head over to the tokens tab here on the left-hand navigation. And you can see here our total supply is 0. We don't own any here, it's 0. We're gonna mint some, and I'm just gonna say we're gonna mint 1 million tokens here. So I'm going to put in additional supply here and mint the tokens. Then I will confirm this here. There you go. You can see now our total supply is at 1 million, and the wallet right here that I have holds all 1 million of the tokens. But what we want to do is deposit these 1 million tokens into our staking contract. So again, that contract can give out those rewards to the users who have their tokens staked. Now, in order to allow the contract to be able to transfer and distribute these tokens, we need to give it approval and permission to do so. And we can do that here within our reward token. We're going to come back to our stake contract first. So this is our stake contract. I'm going to copy the contract address, and we're going to come back to the reward token. I'm going to come over to the Explorer tab here, And under the Explorer tab, we have the ability to execute a write function here. And we're going to select the approve function here. And this approve function is us setting approval for our stake contract to be able to, again, transfer and give these tokens out as a reward. So the spender here, we are going to put our stake contract address. And then for the value, we have to provide how much of these tokens are we giving it permission to transfer. So in this case, we're going to give it all 1 million tokens, and we're going to have to put the $1 million value in here. Now the value that we put in here does need to be in Way. So we're going to go to a Way converter here really quick. And Way is just a unit in which we provide numbers to smart contracts. So in Ether here, I'm going to put my 1 million. And what I'm going to do is copy the Way value here, come back to my reward token and put that in for the value. So again, we're approving that our stake contract has the approval to transfer and distribute 1 million of the reward tokens. So right here, we're going to set the approval. We're going to hit execute. We're going to confirm the approval here for 1 million tokens. You can see here, this is in a Ether value, so 1 million. We'll hit next and approve. And once that goes through, we can now come back to our stake contract here. And now that our stake contract has the approval to, again, distribute our reward tokens, let's deposit our reward tokens into our stake contract. So I'm going to come over to our stake contract and go to the Explorer tab. And the write function here, we are going to deposit our reward tokens. And over here, we're going to put the amount that we want to deposit. So again, we need to provide this in Way. We can take that same value. We're going to deposit 1 million tokens. So I'm going to put that in here, and I am going to execute. We will then confirm this transaction here. And there you go. We now have executed our transaction. So if we come back to our reward tokens here, and I go to the tokens tab on the left-hand navigation here, you can see that there's still 1 million supply here. But if I look at the owned by you, my wallet no longer owns 1 million tokens of the reward tokens. And that's because we deposited into our staking contract. And that's the tokens that is going to be distributed out as rewards based on the people who have our stake token stake. So again, that sets up our staking contract. We do need some tokens though to stake. So I'm going to come back to my staking token, and I'm going to come to the tokens tab here. And we're just going to mint a supply of 100 tokens here. We don't need much. So I'm going to hit mint tokens, and I'm going to confirm that transaction. And there you go. We have some staking tokens, or tokens that we can stake to start earning rewards through our demo here. So again, we have our 3 contracts deployed. We have our staking token, our reward token, and our staking contract. The staking token here is going to be the tokens that we actually stake into our staking contract. We have our reward tokens that are going to be given out as rewards. We minted 1 million of those, and we deposited that all into our staking contract. And again, this is going to be the contract here that we use to stake our stake tokens and earn our reward tokens back in return. And with that all being done, we can now build out our staking application using thirdweb. So I'm going to open up my terminal here. And in my terminal, I'm going to create a new Next.js project here. So I'm going to run npx create next app, and we're going to call this our ERC-20. We'll call this our staking app. You can name your project whatever you want to name it. And when we create our new next project here, we are, let's update this real quick. Yes, we are going to use TypeScript, Node to ESLint, Node to Tailwind, yes to source directory, and yes to app router, and Node to customizing the default import alias here. So we'll create our project here. Then I'm just going to clear this. We'll change into our ERC-20 staking app here. And what I'm going to do next is install thirdweb's Connect SDK. So you can use npm yarn, pnpm, or bun to install thirdweb's Connect SDK. I'm just going to use yarn add thirdweb here, and we're going to install that. And once that is done, we can then open this up in our code editor. And in our code editor here, we can start building out our staking application. First thing I'm going to do is in the sources folder, within the app folder, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name this one client.ts. And we are going to set up our thirdweb client in here. And I'm going to create a variable here, and we're going to call this our client ID. And we are going to store our client ID or thirdweb API key in a .env file. So we'll just say process.env.next public client ID. And I'm going to come back to my files here, and I'm going to create a new file out here for a .env file. And I'm going to get my next public client ID and paste that in there. And we're going to get our thirdweb API key and set that up here. Now, you're going to come on over to your thirdweb dashboard here. You're going to go to the settings tab. And in the settings tab here, you can create an API key. Now, I already have one created, so I'm just going to copy this here. But if you want to check out a video tutorial down in the description below, we walk through what API keys are, how to make one, and what services and everything you can enable through it. So I'm going to come back to my code editor here, paste in my API key, save that, and we'll just close out that .env file because we don't need that anymore. And here, what we're going to do is we're going to export a variable here called client, and we're going to use the create thirdweb client here, and I'm going to import this here from thirdweb. And the create client, we need to just provide it the client ID. In this case, the client ID is going to be our client ID variable up here, and we'll just make sure we say as a string. And there we go. We now have a client here that we can use throughout our application and throughout the thirdweb SDK. Next, I'm going to create another file in the app folder here, and this file is going to be a chain.ts file. And this is where we're going to define the chain that we're going to be using in our application. So I'm going to export a variable here. We're going to call this one chain, and we're going to use the define chain from thirdweb. Now, define chain, we can give it the chain ID. So if you're depending on the chain that you're using, you can just put in the chain ID here, or you can provide it a predefined chain. Now, we do have some popular predefined chains. You can check it out in our documentation. But I'm going to import right here because I deployed my contracts to the base Sepolia testnet. That's what I'm going to be using in this demo. You'll use whatever chain you deployed your contracts to. But I'm going to say base Sepolia. And then we're going to import that from thirdweb/chains. And I can then just provide base Sepolia right in here. And again, this is just defining our chain variable here so that when we use this throughout our thirdweb Connect SDK, we reference the base Sepolia chain right here. Coming back to my files, I'm going to create another file in the app folder here. And this is going to be the thirdweb.ts file. And in here, we're going to set up and export our thirdweb provider. So export here, and I'm going to export our thirdweb provider. And I'm exporting this from thirdweb/React. And at the very top of this, we're going to tag this here with the use client. And this way now, when we use the thirdweb provider to wrap our application, it'll have use client here tagged on it. So coming back to my files, if I go to layout, I'm just going to wrap the children here with the thirdweb provider, so that we can use the thirdweb SDK in our app. So let me just come here and we'll just wrap this with thirdweb provider, get this children here, put that inside. Now we do want to make sure that thirdweb provider here is imported not from the thirdweb React, but imported from our thirdweb.ts file. That way it has the use client here tagged on it. And that does it for setting up the thirdweb Connect SDK with our Next.js project. Now we can start building out our application. If we come over to our files and go to the page.tsx file here, this is the boilerplate code that we get when creating a Next project. So I'm gonna delete everything. So everything in here, I'm gonna select all of it, delete that, and just give myself an empty div here. Also gonna just get rid of those imports there. And I'm just gonna give this div some styling. The styling is just to center everything within the middle of the page. So just setting the flex display the flex, centering everything and giving it the height and width, 100% of the height and width of the page. And then finally, I'm just going to add a div inside here that centers the text of everything inside that we are going to be creating. Now, the first thing I want to add is if we look at our demo here, let's take a look back at our demo application. Let me sign out. I want to have this login page right here. Now, this is actually our Connect embed. So instead of having a button to click and being prompted a modal to select your different wallets or connect options, we just want to display the modal right here and not have the button, which is what the Connect embed is. So coming back to my code editor here, I am just going to, inside of this, add the Connect embed. And we need to provide the Connect embed with our client, which is going to be our client from our client.ts file. And the chain, which we are going to provide it with the chain from our chain.ts file. If we save that, we can actually, let's open our terminal here and run this locally. Let's see. Oh, we didn't export this correctly. So let's come back here. We'll copy our Connect embed. So just like we did the thirdweb provider, coming back to our thirdweb.ts file, let's add Connect embed in there as well. So it's tagged with the use client. And we'll make sure that we import this not from thirdweb React, but from our thirdweb file here. There we go. And once our page refreshes, it looks like we are connected. So let's add really quick. Come back here. I'm just going to add a connect button as well. And we're going to add our client and chain there. And I'm just going to make sure that this is exported from thirdweb and this is imported here from the same, actually, sorry, we'll copy this here and get rid of this import. So let's just let that refresh code. I already had a wallet connected, so once we disconnect here, we should be brought up with this. So I'm just going to get rid of the connect button now. We don't need that anymore. And get rid of it here. So now we have our Connect embed here, and this is where we can sign in with a social login. We can connect to any of these wallets here. This is how we sign in to our staking application. Now let's build out the actual staking application. So once we're connected with a wallet, we should be able to see our staking application. Like we should be able to see our staking application, our token balances, and everything. So coming back here, I'm going to set up our contracts first. So coming back to my file directory, I'm going to create a new folder. We're going to call this folder utils folder. And in there, we're going to create a new file called contracts.ts. And in our contracts.ts file, the first thing we're going to do here is get our contract addresses for our stake token contract, our reward token, and our staking contract. So I'm going to come back to my contracts here. We have our staking token. I'm going to copy that contract address. Come here and paste it. We have our reward token. I'm going to copy that, paste that in, and then we have our staking contract. So I'm going to come back here, copy that, and paste that in there. And that does it for our contract addresses. Now we need to be able to get and wrap these contracts so that we can use the Connect SDK to interact with them. And we're going to export our contracts here. We're going to call this one our stake token contract. And we're going to use get contract here from thirdweb. And what we're going to do here is we are going to provide it one with our client, which is going to be our client from our client.ts file. We're going to provide it our chain, which is going to be our chain from our chain.ts file. And then we're going to provide it with the address. And the address we're going to provide it is the stake token address. And that does it for getting our wrapper for our stake token contract. We'll do the same thing. I'm just going to copy this, and we're going to do this for our reward token contract. So this one here, we're going to use our reward token contract address. And then finally, we're going to do the same thing for our staking contract. So this is going to be our staking contract, and we're going to be using our staking contract address. Now we do have pre-built extensions for ERC-20 contracts, which our stake token and our reward token are. We don't have pre-built in extensions for our ERC-20 staking contract. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide the ABI here for our staking contract. Now I'm going to come into my files here, and I'm going to create another file within our utils folder, and I'm going to call this our staking contract ABI.ts. And we're going to create our contract ABI in here. So I'm going to export a variable here called our staking contract ABI. And we're going to provide our staking contract ABI. Now coming back to the staking contract here, if we go to the source file or source tab here, and we scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see our ABI, and this is the full ABI of the staking contract. So we're going to copy this here, come back to our staking contract ABI here, paste that in, and we're going to say as a constant. And we're going to then, we close that out. In our contracts for the staking contract, we're going to provide it the ABI here, and this is going to be our staking contract ABI that we're going to provide it. And this way we can easily access the methods and everything within the staking contract itself. So that does it for our contract setup. Again, we're getting the contracts for our stake token, our reward token, and our staking contract. And we're creating our wrappers for those contracts here so we can interact with them with the Connect SDK. Now let's build out our staking app. So coming back to my files here, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this components. And in the components, I'm just going to create a stake.tsx file. And we're going to export our component here. We're going to call this stake. And we are going to then return, and we'll just give it some empty divs right now. And the first thing we want to do is we want to only display our staking app if there is a wallet connected. And we can check if a wallet is connected by using a hook. So we're going to create a variable here, and I'm going to call this account. And the hook we're going to use is use active account. And what this is going to return us is a active account, or an account that is connected to our Web3 application, or it's going to return us undefined if there is no active account set. So we can use that to determine if a wallet is connected or not. So we'll say, hey, if there is an account, then you can show out our application. If not, we're not going to show anything. And the only thing that should be displayed is the connect embed that we had in our page.tsx file. I'm also going to tag this component here with use client. And first thing we'll display here is just a connect button. So once we are connected, we want to maybe see what our connected account is. So we'll use the connect button here, and we'll make sure we import our client and chain here. So this here is just a div with some styling here, and we have a connect button in here. So not the connect embed, but the actual button. And then we need to provide it with the client and chain. We'll save that, and let's head back to our page.tsx and add our stake component right over here. So let's say add that in and hit save, and then come back to our app. So let's try this out. So right here is my connect embed. I can select my wallet to connect. So let's just select my MetaMask wallet. And once we're connected, you can see here, this is the div with some background color, and we can view our connected account. I can disconnect, and I'm brought back to the connect embed or the login page here. So we'll say connect back, and there you go. And then within here, this is where we're going to build out our staking application. So come back to my code editor here, and we're going to come back to the stake.tsx file. We're going to first display the connected wallet's balance for the staking tokens and the reward tokens. So we want to display what the actual balance of the connected wallet is. And we can do this by using the use read contract hook from thirdweb. The use read contract hook returns us back some data, which we'll call this one here our staking token balance. It'll give us back the loading state. So we'll say is loading. We'll call this loading stake token balance. So we'll just say data is loading. And again, this is going to use the use read contract hook. And the use read contract hook, we can provide it the method of the function from the contract that we want to read. And in this case, what we're going to do is actually provide it with an extension. And we're going to provide it with the balance of extension here. And I'm going to import this extension. So import balance of. We're importing this from thirdweb /extensions /ERC-20. And the balance of here, we're going to provide it with first the contract. And the contract we're checking the balance of is our stake token contract, which we are going to import from our contracts file. And then we need to provide it the address that we're checking the balance for. And we can get that address from the account variable that we have here using the useActiveAccount hook. So for address here, we can say, hey, this is going to be the account.address. But if we don't have an address, it'll just give us back an empty string. We can also set some query options here. And we can say it's only enabled if there is an account connected. So if we don't have an account connected, you shouldn't be fetching the balance of here. And that is going to get us the balance of our staking token. I'm going to copy this and we're going to do the same thing for our reward token. So instead of token balance, I'm going to call this our reward balance. And instead of loading stake token, we are loading our reward token, and not the stake token contract, but our reward token contract. And there you go. So same thing, but for our reward token instead of our stake token. And then finally down here, I'm going to just add a really quick truncate function to truncate the value to only 2 decimal places. This truncate function here is going to take in our value. So this balance here is going to be a string. So we do need to provide it with a string. And then we're going to set the decimal places to whatever decimal places we want to set it to. So next, I'm going to now display this values. So I'm going to create a div here. We're just going to add some quick styling here to this div. Give it a flex and some margin. And in here, we're going to say, hey, if the loading stake token balance. So if it is loading, we're just going to show some text saying loading here. You can add whatever you want. And once the token balance is loaded, we're going to display that balance. So we're going to say staking token, and then we're going to show the balance here. So we're going to truncate, and we're going to say 2 ether. So the value that we get returned back is a wave value. So we're going to use 2 ether here from thirdweb, which is going to convert that wave value into an ether value. So it's a value that we can display here. And again, for truncate, I'm setting the decimal place to 2. And what I'm going to get here is the staking token balance. And we are going to display that. So with just this here, this should display us 100 because I have 100 stake tokens. And right over here in our app, you can see here we have staking tokens and it is set to 100. So we're going to do kind of the same thing. We'll copy this. This one's for loading our reward token. And we are going to be showing our reward token balance, not our stake token balance for this one. And if I save that and I come back, it should display 0 because we don't have our reward tokens. Let's actually rename that here. So this should be our reward tokens. There you go. So stake tokens, I have 100. I don't have any reward tokens yet because I haven't staked and claimed any rewards. So that should be 0. So now we have our balances shown here. Next, let's build out the actual staking component here where we can either stake staking tokens or we can withdraw staking tokens if we have any of those tokens actually staked. Now, to get that information of how much rewards and staked tokens we have to read that data from our staking contract. Now, in our staking contract, if we go to the Explore page here and we look at the read function here, we have a function here called getStakeInfo. And if we provide the stake info function and address, it returns us back an array of information here. Now, this first object here is going to be our tokens staked. So it's going to give us back the number of how many tokens we have staked. And this second one here is going to give us back the rewards that we can claim. So let me just come back here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get that stake info first. So we're going to use the use contract read hook again. So this time we're going to create a variable. We're going to have our data here. This is going to be our stake info. And again, we're going to use the useRead contract hook. Now for this one, we don't have an extension again for our ERC-20 staking contracts, but we did provide the contract wrapper with the ABI. So we should be able to access all the methods and functions from the staking contract. So for the useRead contract here, we have to provide it with the contract, which is going to be our staking contract. We'll then provide it the method. And you can see here, if we import our staking contract, the method here, we should be able to see all the functions and methods here. Now there is a get stake info function that we are going to use. And then we need to provide any of the params that we need for that function. And in this case, we do need to provide it the address or the wallet address like we showed in the Explorer page of the contract. And the same thing here, we'll have query options, and we should only fetch this data here if there is an account connected. And with that, we'll be able to get our staking information, which includes the amount of tokens we have staked and the amount of staking rewards. And in here, I'm also going to set the refetch here. And this is going to be to refetch the data. We're just going to name this refetch stake info. And then at the bottom here, we're going to create a use effect to refetch that info, we'll say every 10 seconds. So we'll say refetch stake info. We'll import use effect. And it'll just refetch that information every 10 seconds. And this is because this is also going to be keeping track of the awards that we have earned. So we want to make sure that the rewards updates every 10 seconds so the user knows how much of the reward tokens they can claim. So this here is just, again, refetching the staking information every 10 seconds. So now that we have that information, we can build out our component here. So let's take a look at our demo here. Connect a wallet. This is our demo one. We have a stake button and a withdraw button. So we can stake a certain amount of tokens. It opens a little modal here, or we can withdraw a certain amount. And then we can claim rewards. So depending on how much rewards we have, we should be able to claim that and then update our values and everything up here. So we're going to first create the stake and withdraw buttons here. You can see here when we go stake, we have some input fields here. So we're going to create some state variables for those first. And in our stake component here, we also have to set approval, and then we have to stake. So we'll set a state for this as well to make sure that we set approval prior to being able to stake the amount. And then of course, we'll set the state variables for the actual modal windows itself. So coming back here, I'm going to come all the way up to the top, and I'm going to put these under the account variable here. So I'm going to create a few state variables here. We'll just import use state. So the first one is the stake amount. So this is going to be for the stake amount input field. We'll set that to 0 as default. Same thing with the withdrawal amount. We'll set that to 0. For staking state here, this is again, we need to be able to approve the stake amount before we can actually stake the token. So we'll be able to display the buttons depending on which state the actual staking is going through, either initial or approved. And then is staking and is withdrawing. These are going to be the state variables for the two modal windows that we're going to control. So scrolling down here, right under the loading token rewards, we're going to say, hey, if we have our stake info, we should display our staking application. And in here, I'm just going to create a div. And we're going to create two buttons. So first button is going to be our stake button. And then our second button is going to be our withdraw button. So we save that and come back to our app, not the demo one, but our actual app here. You can see we have stake and withdraw. So we can select those buttons. Let's just give it some quick styling here really quick. So our stake buttons, let's just put some styling in here. There you go. We have our stake and withdraw here. And let's take this out of just take this. We're just going to take this out of the div that it was under. So we're going to take this out of the div that the balances and everything was. And we'll just throw this into some empty tags here. So there you go. We have our stake button and withdraw button. They don't do anything yet. And next we'll work on our stake modal. So down here we'll say if we is staking, then we should show our stake modal here. And we're going to just create a div here. And within that div, we'll create another div. We're just going to give this here some styling. This is to create a fixed modal in the middle of our screen. And then we're going to give this here some detail for our card. And then we're going to add a close button. So again, this here, we're saying this is just going to be the actual modal that opens if we're staking. It opens up a div that is just going to be centered within the middle of our screen. And then we have a button here that is going to close out the modal. Now here in the stake modal, we're going to say, hey, on click, we are going to set the is staking here to true. And then for this modal, this close button, we are going to set the on click for this to set staking to false. So coming back to our app here, if I hit stake, it opens up that modal. If I hit close, it closes the modal there. So that is for our button here. And then we'll do the same thing for our withdraw. So I'm going to copy this here. Copy this is staking here. And then below that, we're going to say this is for is withdrawing. And then we should say set withdrawing here to false. And then coming back to the button up here for withdraw, we need to set this on click here to true. So coming back, stake. This is our staking window, and then we have our withdraw window here. So let's work on our staking window first. So coming down here below our close button, I'm just going to add a H3 here and call this staking, or sorry, we should call it stake. We'll add in our balance here so we can see what our balance is that we can actually stake. We'll just use we'll use our truncate here. This is going to truncate our 2 ether, and we're going to get our staking token balance. And again, that should display us our balance of how much of the stake token we own. That way we can see, hey, this is how much tokens we can actually stake. So if I hit stake here, it should say stake, and our balance is 100. Now, depending where we are, remember, in order to stake a token, we first need to set approval, and then we can execute the staking. And we created a state for that. So coming back all the way up here, we have the staking state here, and we have our initial state, and then we have our approved state. So only if a token is approved should it move to the approved state, where we can then show the staking button to stake. So only once the token is approved should we move into this approved state, where we'll then show the stake button. So coming back down here into our staking modal here, we'll come right below our balance, and we're going to say, hey, we're going to check the staking state. And if it is in the initial state, we should show this information here. And if not, then we should show the approved state here. So in the initial state here, we should show the input for us to put in the amount that we want to stake. This is going to be a number. We'll set the placeholder for this to 0.0. We'll set the value for this to the stake amount. We'll set the on change here to change and set the stake amount to whatever amount is in our input. And then we'll just give some quick styling here to our input. So again, this is going to be where we can plug in the input of how much we want to stake within our staking contract. And below that, we're then going to have a button. Now this button, again, it shouldn't be the stake button. It should be the button to set the approval. So we're going to create a transaction button here from thirdweb, and we're going to call this set approval. And this transaction button here, we need to provide it with a transaction. And the transaction that we are going to call here is going to be the approve extension for ERC-20 contracts. And what we are going to approve is we can set the contract. So we are calling this approval on our stake token contract. And we are setting the approval for the staking contract. And what we're setting the approval for is, again, we are going to stake these tokens into the staking contract, and we want to make sure that that staking contract also has the approval to send us back the tokens and everything when we withdraw it. So we're going to set the spender here to staking contract.address, and this is going to get the contract address of our staking contract. And then we're going to set the amount, which is going to be the stake amount. So whatever input we had in our input here. Then on here, we're going to say when the transaction is confirmed, we are going to set the staking state to approved, right? So once it's confirmed, it should set us into the next state where we can then stake the token. And then I'll just add some styling here for that button. So next in this section here, so this is if the staking state is equal to the initial state here, it should show us a prompt to input a number and then approve that amount. In the approved state here, we just want to display the staked amount. So we'll just say whatever amount we had, we'll just display that staked amount. We'll give that some styling here. And then below this, we should have another button. So we're going to say transaction button again. And this button is going to allow us to stake the tokens. So again, we're going to set up a transaction. Now for this transaction, we are going to be using the stake contract, which doesn't have any extensions. So we're going to prepare a contract call. And we're going to set that the contract that we are preparing this call on for is going to be our staking contract. The method that we are going to call is going to be the stake method. So again, you can look at all the methods that we have here. We're going to call the stake method, and we're going to give it the parameters that we need to provide that function there, which is going to be the stake amount. Now for this function here, we do need to provide the stake amount in way. So we can use the toWay from thirdweb here, and then provide it our stake amount and then .toString. And that will provide it with our stake amount that we had in the input to our staking contract, and it will stake that amount of tokens to our contract. Now we'll say on transaction confirmed, we are going to set the stake amount back to 0. And oh, these should be brackets. So set the stake amount back to 0. We're going to set the staking state back to initial. We're also going to refetch our staking info. We also want to refetch our token balances. So let's set up our refetch here for our token balances too. So here we'll say refetch staking token and refetch reward token. Down here, once we stake, we'll want to refetch our staking token balance, and we'll also want to set is staking to false. So we'll just close that window out. So again, this button here, so in our modal, we'll first be prompted with a modal with an input where we can input the amount that we want to stake. We'll then have a button here to set approval first on the stake token to allow our staking contract the ability to transfer these tokens. Once the set approval is confirmed, we set the staking stake to approved, which will bring us to the next part here, which is going to display our stake amount and have a confirmation button here to stake our tokens, which will then call the stake function from our staking contract. And once that is confirmed, we'll set everything back to its initial state. So we can actually test this out here now. We'll come back to our app. There you go. So we come back to our app here and we hit stake. We have our input here. We have set approval first. We can't stake it yet until we set approval. So let's see here. Let's stake 10 tokens. So we'll set that to 10. We'll set approval first. We get a transaction here to set the approval. You can see here it's set to 10. Let's hit next and approve. And there you go. Next thing we can do is stake. So I can't adjust this stake amount here. It just tells me that I have approved 10 tokens to be staked. and then we can hit stake here, and then we can confirm this. And there you go, it resets everything. You can see our staking token goes down to 90, and we now have staked 10 tokens. So now that we have tokens staked, how can we view the amount that we have staked and the rewards that we are earning for having those tokens staked? And then finally, the claim rewards button. So we'll come back to this withdraw button in a bit. Let's get that information for our staked information, for our staked tokens first. So coming back to my code editor here, in our staked info, in the area where we're checking for our staked info and we have our stake and withdraw buttons, I'm going to create another div here. And in this div, we are first going to display our balance staked. And again, we are getting this staking information using the use read contract hook here, and getting the information from the get staked info function from our staking contract. So in here, when we're getting our balance staked, we are going to truncate this here. We're going to say to ether. We're going to get the amount, which we're going to get from our stake info. We get returned back 2 objects. So we're going to take the first object here, which is going to be our balance that we have staked, and we're going to say to string, and then we'll set the decimal places to 2. And sorry, so we'll say get stake information, then to string. Sorry, there we go. So we're going to get the stake info. We'll say to ether because we get it back in way. We'll set that to a string and then truncate that to 2 decimal places. We'll do the same thing for our reward balance. So I'll just copy this here, paste that. We'll say reward balance. And for this, we're getting the second object in our stake info, and that is going to give us back the rewards that we are earning for having the tokens staked. So coming back to my app here, you can see this is our 10 staked tokens, and so far we have earned 18.2 of our reward token. So now let's create a button here to allow us to claim the rewards that we are earning. So coming back to my code editor, below those balances, we'll just add a transaction button again. We'll call this one here claim rewards. And the transaction here for our claim rewards button is going to use the prepare contract call. We're going to again call a function from our staking contract. The method we are going to call is the claim rewards function. And we don't need to provide it with any parameters or anything. We're just calling that function, and that should claim the rewards based on the wallet that we have connected. And then we'll say here on a transaction confirmed, we are going to refetch our reward token balance. Yeah, so refetch reward token balance. And then we are going to refetch our staking info as well. So now coming back here, we have a button here that we can claim our rewards. So we have about 28 tokens that we can claim. So if we hit claim rewards and confirm that transaction, it should reset this to 0. It should update our reward tokens. And there you go. We're back reset. And every 10 seconds, this value here should update. So we should get an update soon. There you go, 1.2. And we still have our 10 tokens staked. So the final thing we need to do here is get our withdraw set here. So if we want to take out the tokens that we have staked, we should be able to withdraw it here. So coming back to my code editor, we're going to go into our withdraw section. And under the close button here, we'll just add a H3 header called withdraw. Under withdraw here, we're going to have an input for us to input the amount that we want to withdraw. So we'll just say number here. We'll set the placeholder to 0.0. We'll set the value here to withdrawal amount. And we'll set the on change to set the withdrawal amount to the number that we have set in our input. I have some styling here for our input field. And then we are going to create our transaction button here, which is going to be our withdraw button. And in that withdraw button, the transaction that we execute is going to be the withdrawal function from our staking contract. So again, we're going to prepare a contract call on our staking contract. The method we're going to call is the withdrawal function. We're going to get the withdrawal amount. Again, we need to submit this as a way value. So we're going to convert that to way here. And that will withdraw the amount that we input into the input field. And then on transaction confirmed here, we are going to set the withdrawal amount to 0. We'll refetch our staking info once again, and then we'll refetch our staking token balance. And set is withdrawing here to false. So we're setting the input field back to 0. We're refetching the stake amount because it should refetch the amount of tokens we actually have staked because we took some out. We'll refetch the staking balance to show the new balance that we have in our wallet. And then we'll close the modal window out over here. So coming back to our app, the withdraw button here, we now have our input field and withdraw. We can't withdraw 0, but we have 10 tokens. So let's say we want to withdraw 5. So let's say withdraw. We can confirm that to withdraw our 5 tokens. And there you go. We now only have 5 tokens staked and we have 95 tokens in our wallet because we got 5 back. We have our balance here. So now we have the ability to stake tokens, we have the ability to withdraw tokens, and claim our rewards. So to walk through all of this again, let's say stake. Let's say we want to stake 15 tokens. We can hit set approval. We'll set that to 15. We'll approve this. Once approved, we can hit, hey, stake the 15 tokens. Confirm that. Once we have the 15 tokens staked, you can see here I only have 80 in my wallet and I have 20 tokens now staked. I can withdraw those tokens like we just did, and I can claim my rewards. So right here I have about 22 rewards to claim. I can hit claim, we can hit confirm, and we should then get our balance here of our reward tokens updated, and this reward balance down here should reset back to 0, and we can start earning rewards again. So there you have it. This is how you can build an ERC-20 staking application utilizing thirdweb's Connect SDK. Again, we deployed ourselves a couple ERC-20 token contracts that we used for our staking token and reward token. We also deployed ourselves an ERC-20 staking smart contract, all from thirdweb. And then we built out a staking application that allows us to use the staking contract and the tokens that we deployed using thirdweb's Connect SDK. So again, I hope you folks enjoyed this video. You found some value in it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you don't miss out on more tutorial videos just like this. If you need any help or support, we'll drop a link down in the description below where you can open a support ticket, and our support team will be happy to answer any of your questions and help you out. But again, I hope you folks enjoyed this video. Until next time, see ya.